So today we're going to be talking about adding loft, something that a lot of people don't like to do around the greens, but it's absolutely necessary if you want to have an elite level short game. And how we're going to layer this is by discussing how would I add loft at address, so all my setup keys, and then how would I add loft in my swing if I really had to flop one. So let's start with the address stuff, and I would say always start with the address stuff when you're adding loft because it's much easier than trying to create loft in your swing. You'll see someone like Scheffler who doesn't seem to do a very different swing often, but the ball comes out differently, mainly because he's doing so many things at address to change that. So in this context, we're just going to talk about if I was hitting a fairly high shot. You can see we have kind of a high shot right here, short-sided, probably a 15, 20 yard shot with not very much green to work with. So number one is you got to get the face open. You can see I have this 60-degree T-grind SM10. You've got to get really comfortable with opening this face or you're really going to have a hard time adding loft. So step one is open the face. Now, as I open the face, one thing I'm going to have to do at address is I have to definitely lower the handle. If you don't lower the handle, the heel of the club is going to be up in the sky. You can see that off the ground. So lowering the handle like this is definitely a way to make it go higher. Secondly is I'm going to have the ball middle to slightly forward. I think there's a big misconception. You don't have to have the ball super forward to hit it high. I can hit it very high from the middle of my stance. If you wanted to put it a little forward like that, you can see that's just slightly inside my middle of my stance. That's totally fine. And then lastly, you're going to have to widen the stance just a little bit because as you lower the handle, it's going to be easier if you kind of set down a little bit like this. That should add some loft. Okay, so from there, that's really all the setup keys that I have. You know, you don't want to have the handle forward, so kind of handle at your belly button. And then from there, I can do basically a very normal mid-trajectory swing. I don't have to do anything crazy with my swing because I've added so much loft at address. Let's go ahead and hit a couple. Okay, so there's my setup. Ball is barely forward. I'm not going to do anything crazy with my swing. Yeah, that went really high. A little far, but really high. And I'm pretty happy with that. Let's do that one more time. So face open, ball in the middle, club at the belly button, maybe slightly forward, handle low, and then just kind of a dead arm swing. Yeah, that was really high. You can see my finish here, I'm not doing anything crazy. And that came out really high, really spinny. All right, let's discuss some things in your swing that you have to do if you want to start adding more loft than that. So number one is, if you want to add a lot of loft, you have to do a really big swing. You can see the swings I just did were more like 1/2 to 3/4 swings. I probably didn't go any more than like right there. And that's just not going to produce a ton of loft. So let's talk about length of swing. So when I'm doing this, and you're going to see this better on the face on here, is I'm basically going like shoulder to shoulder. That is ultimately going to give me the most loft is when I do a really big arm swing. Okay, so let me show you one just doing that. I'm not changing anything else. Setup is the same. Again, ball is barely forward, shoulder to shoulder. I'm kind of staying in my posture. Oh, that was really high. You can see my finish right there. I'm on my left shoulder, just like that. Okay, again, those went a little bit far. I'm not trying to necessarily stuff it right here. I guess on this last one I will. And then the last piece from here is going to be two things. One is on the backswing, I'm going to be spinning the face open. I want to be rolling that face open like this to where the face is pointing me. If I point the face at the camera, that would be shut. If I point the face away from the camera, that is going to be very open. You're going to feel your lead wrist extend or cup like this, which is totally fine. You don't want to have a strong face here. So that's going to be coupled with a hinge and re-hinge motion. So as I'm adding this long arm swing, I'm also feeling like I'm hinging the club a lot. And what hinge is really feeling very wristy, or almost, you may have heard someone say in your golf swing that you flip it. Well, this is where the flip is good. Flipping the club at the bottom generally adds loft. So if I do those things like this, so I'm going wide stance, big arm swing, hinge, re-hinge with weak face, very weak face. Oh, there it is. Yeah, there we go. That stopped a lot faster and a lot closer. And that is how you add a ton of loft. So that would be like a flop shot. You're probably not going to need that shot very often when you're playing, but when you do, it needs to be in your toolbox. You're going to have a really hard time with getting up and down from every situation. This type of shot would work well on a bunker short-sided. it would work well in the rough, and it's going to work well in the fairway. So nail those setup keys and then start working on those dynamic pieces, and you'll be able to hit the ball really, really high and stop it on a dime, and you'll surely get up and down more, especially in those tough situations.